the Seven Figure Onramp. Let me just get all our chat going because I nailed that yesterday, obviously. If you are tuning in, there we go. Okay, say hello so I can see that it works. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Now I just want to figure out my mic. There we go. Okay, let me switch my mic over. Can you guys hear me okay? Can I get a hey? Yeah. Can I get a hey, hey? Can I get a hey, hello? Hey. Thank you, Barry. All right. Welcome, everybody. Yes, awesome. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you. Okay, so we are on day 2 of the Seven Figure Onramp. And really, this has been a conversation about how you are on a quest. You are on a quest to make millions because make no mistake, that is what that is. You are aiming to get into the 1%. If you're already there making millions, you're aiming to create a new relationship with money, one that doesn't feel sacrificial, one that doesn't feel like you're trapped by it. And there's not a lot of people modeling that. That's certainly something that I found when I walked away from one of my companies in 2020. I realized that even after I had walked away, I was still addicted to that busy, overwhelm, frenetic energy. And even though I had walked away, I felt guilty. I felt like I needed to be busy. I needed to be doing something. And we can get really addicted to those reds, whether it's depression, anxiety, frustration, confusion. We can get addicted to them. We can get looped into those circuits. And when I decided to launch the flow protocols in 2021, I realized that I needed to do things differently, mostly because honestly, my nervous system was so shot to buggers that I really didn't have a choice. And when I was looking around for people to inspire this, a lot of the peers and colleagues that were making those kinds of figures, the 7 figures, a lot of the mentors that I'd previously hired, I wasn't able to really see this being modeled properly. I mean, I wrote a post recently about the 4-hour work week, which was written by Tim Ferriss. And this book really inspired me over 10 years ago. I remember reading that book and going, what the hell? This is possible? How is this possible? And I will say, just based off, I don't know Tim personally, but just based off of his content output and the amount of books that he's putting out and the amount of work that he's putting out in the world, I don't even think that guy is working 4-hour work weeks. So it was really difficult for me to find anyone to model this. And it was very unbelievable at first. Like, can this even be done? Especially because at the time I had residual PTSD from Facebook ads. So my previous companies, I had pretty much grown through funnels and ads. And when I walked away from that, I was like, I don't even want to see a Facebook ad account anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And I decided I was going to grow flow protocols organically. So with those 2 variables in place, it was something that felt very, very unbelievable to me. And this is why this conversation that we're having is such a powerful one for us to have, because it's an opportunity for us to not only achieve this quest for ourselves and for the purposes of why we're creating, but also to create a ripple effect, to start to normalize this cadence in business, because the truth is there's not many people doing it out there. And that's why we're calling it a quest. So yesterday we talked about the hero's journey and this concept of extroverting our intentions. So not making it about the money, which I know is ironic because you guys are here to learn how to make the big money. And what I'm essentially telling you is like, don't make it about the money. And make it about something that you're really, really excited about. And ideally, extrovert this beyond yourself. So, to other people. There's two parts of that value exchange. There's two parties involved, right? It's an exchange. And so, in order for us to command, if we're talking about, making millions of dollars, that's a big value exchange. That's a lot of value that we're bringing to the world. And if we are solely focused on the money as the intention or on our personal desires, I want to renovate my house, or I want to have savings in my bank account, or I want to be able to travel the world, we're degrading that value exchange because there's not a lot of value for other people in that. And so we're forgetting about the other party involved. By the way, please bear with me today. I have a bit of a chesty cough, so I might have to take a few pauses, and I've been drinking Lemsip, so I'm feeling a little bit high. Feeling a little bit like on cloud nine right now. And just a little housekeeping before I forget. If you haven't joined the free group, make sure that you do so. That group is where I'm going to post all the replays, and that's going to be made available to you guys until the 26th of August, after which this is going to become a private community where we're going to stay in this energy on an ongoing basis. And I'll explain a lot more today on why that is so, so important. So yesterday was about thinking about how we can create in states of green, emotional greens, instead of states of overwhelm. Also a discussion of, well, if you are in the reds right now, that doesn't prevent you from making money, but really that's going to get reflected back at you. And we understand this intuitively, because if someone feels unworthy of love, it doesn't mean that they can't attract love. It doesn't mean that they can't attract a partner. But usually what will tend to happen is when that person does attract a partner, this emotional red, or these beliefs, or this perspective is going to begin to manifest itself. So maybe the partner is narcissistic, they don't treat them the way that they want, or maybe they start to get insecure and they start to question their love, and then it creates all kinds of troubles in that relationship. And the same thing is true for money. So we can actually create money from emotional reds, but we are making it it is going to be a lot more difficult to do to begin with. And essentially, you're going to get to the stage where you will make the money potentially and realize it never solved for this loneliness or this anxiety or this stress that you're feeling. There's a really good quote by Jim Carrey that I'm really good at. Oh, no, what happened? Am I still here? Oh, there we go. I just got a sign that said evacuated. By Jim Carrey, and I'm really good at butchering quotes, so this is not verbatim, but he says something along the lines of, I wish everybody in the world could make millions and have all the money that they want so that they can realize that's not the thing that they think it is. So ideally, the intention should be that we are creating from a space of emotional greens. And that is how we begin to create a lot of value in that exchange. That is how we're going to be able to make it through the quest. When we are pursuing things that feel exciting to us, that feel like flow, that feel like play, that feel like joy to us, that's when we get money that expands those states. And not only that, it creates a ripple of goodness for everyone around us. If you think about it, if you're creating seven figures or any amount of money from a state of overwhelm, how does this benefit anybody around you? Sure, maybe your clients, your immediate clients, are going to be really happy that you're working overtime and you're pushing pedal to the metal. But there's going to be maybe young children around you or family members or friends around you that are going to be looking up to you. And that's the behavior that you're modeling for them. And that's what it teaches them. It teaches them money comes at a cost, comes at a cost of your health, your mental health, your well-being, your family relationships. So it doesn't have the same impact that it does if you're creating in emotional greens. Now, just because we are extroverting our intentions and we are connecting to things that feel really exciting to us, and we are creating from states of emotional greens, we're in flow, we feel good, we have a big why, we're on a mission to help people, to change the world. Maybe you have a really big audacious hairy goal, a bag or whatever they call it. Just because you're doing that doesn't mean that you're automatically going to secure 7 figures and lots of money, nor does it mean that you are never going to face challenges or bottlenecks. So a big part of our conversation yesterday was about how stories are mirrored in our lives. We are telling stories in our lives. We are natural storytellers. We love stories. We tell them in sports. We tell them in politics. We tell them in movies. We tell them in books. We are obsessed with content. It's what we just consume it. And there's so much, millions of, I don't even know how many every day, probably billions of pieces of content produced every day. We're just like, nah, gobble, gobble, more. We're obsessed with this. And very much we mimic the hero's journey in our own lives. We are telling stories in our own lives. And every good story will always have antagonistic forces. This is a key pillar to a story. These antagonistic forces are either going to be internal or they're going to be external. So sometimes you have this bad guy, this villain who's like really up in your face and trying to stop you at every move. And that's the antagonistic force. Sometimes the external antagonistic forces are social expectations or things that are happening in the economy. But regardless, it's always going to come back to an internal problem-solving skill. And that's what those antagonistic forces do. They force the protagonist to problem solve. And the reason that this is so important in the hero's quest and in storytelling and in your own story is that there's a lot of benefits to problem solving. Problem solving is how you develop a character. Problem solving leads to self-acceptance. It leads to empathy. It leads to resilience. It leads to change and to transformation. You know, I spent a big part of the last year talking with my friends and even asking online with posts. And I was, as I was diving into the world of storytelling from the perspective of an author, and I was really curious about this, but also looking at it from the perspective of a mentor and somebody who's interested in mindset and how stories apply in our own lives, and asking, is it possible to have a story without antagonistic forces? i.e., when I say antagonistic forces, I mean what we would refer to as maybe challenges or chaos, right? Is it possible to write a story without that? And I found a couple books that were free of chaos or duality or contrasting experiences, but it's very rare. And usually those stories, people cannot relate to them. They don't do very well in the market. They don't do very well in life when you're trying to relate to people. And so it's very, very difficult to create a story without antagonistic forces, without that contrasting duality, without those challenges. And one of the things that I came to realize through all of this is that even though we are in flow and we are in play and we have a big purpose that's maybe beyond ourselves, I want to help people, those forces are actually very, very beneficial because of the reasons that I just explained. When we have a protagonist that is asked in every story, you will see there's a protagonist that's going to have to problem solve something. And even if it's an external villain or an external force, it's always going to boil down to an internal shift. If we look at our own lives, let's say maybe you have somebody in your life that's really pessimistic and they're really negative and they're always putting you down and maybe they're bullying you. Maybe you're in a relationship like that. So there's an external antagonistic force, this villain or whatever. But really, the shift, the problem solving is going to require an internal shift in yourself. You're going to have to step into the courage. You're going to have to be the one to make the decision to set the boundaries, to walk away, to seek something else for yourself. So it's always going to boil down to this internal problem solving skill. And that's where the character really gets developed. Now, when we're talking about money, because this is what this workshop is about, usually the antagonistic forces that were the challenges, well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you first, what are, if we're looking at your hero's journey and your quest, what are the challenges or the antagonistic forces that you're up against right now? What are the forces that protagonist is faced with, preventing you from achieving this epic heroic outcome that you're after, these desires that you're after? Excuse me. This is what happens when you have kids. They bring home all kinds of wonderful viruses. Slow payments, deals not closing. Doubt. Yeah, so sometimes the antagonistic force is your clients. I had a good friend message me the other day and she said, man, one of my biggest clients, she's a brand consultant and freelancer. And she has a really big retainer client and it's the bulk of her revenue every month, but they're just so micromanaging her. They're just on her ass about everything. They're not giving her the freedom to create the way she wants to. And that is the antagonistic force for her. And she was feeling herself just going smaller and smaller and just like doubting herself, her confidence starting to waver, right? Now, I'll tell you the ending of her story just so I don't leave that as an open loop. She made the decision. She stepped into the courage to let them go. And she said almost immediately, I just felt free. Like I just felt so, so free. And I can relate with this so much because I've had an agency where I've had clients monopolize our revenues that were not a great fit. Usually those were the ones that you knew. You had a bad feeling from the get-go, but you took them on because you wanted the money. And then you get to a position where you're like, fuck, I'm going to have to let them go. But then how the fuck am I going to pay my bills? How the fuck am I going to pay my staff? How the fuck am I going to do this? And so the conflict in that situation, it required a stepping into this courage, right? This trust, this surrender. We're going to let them go. So even though we're talking about playful millions, we're talking about creating from emotional greens, we're talking about making money without sacrifice. Make no mistake, this shit isn't easy. It doesn't mean you're not going to face difficulty. Because to have the courage to let one of your best top revenue clients go is really, really hard to do. To have the courage to walk away from a relationship where maybe everything is okay on paper, but you're not feeling it, is really, really hard to do. Has anyone been in this situation, right? You'll know. And then you do. You finally step into that, you problem solve, you create that shift, and it's like, I can breathe. And now the protagonist is ready to receive, is ready to go to the next level of the game, right? Slow payments, toxic ex, financial investments that went pear-shaped, lawsuits. Yeah. So many of those things that you guys are explaining can be seen as external antagonistic forces. So there's like this evil ex in the picture, or these people that are taking you to court, and fuck, like I'm just getting bombarded with these things. But always that problem solving is going to require internal transmutations, internal shifts, even if they are external. And so when we're talking about money, usually the biggest antagonistic forces that we see is either rotten clients, or clients that are just not a good fit. Maybe the economy, maybe you're in fear right now, or you're doubting yourself, or you're minimizing the way that you're playing, because if you go on social media, if you go online, if you listen to the news for even just 1 minute, it will be very easy to believe the world is going to shit. This is why I really try to limit my time on social media, because it's not, as much as I try to gear my algorithm for memes and playful things, like I love watching bloopers on Instagram. Me and my partner sometimes do it before we go to bed. And I try to like engage with that content, so the algorithm will keep feeding me that. Somehow it keeps going back to fear-based monologues, or really dark and heavy stuff. And that's because the algorithm knows that fear is a huge engager, right? When you're seeing things that are contradicting your opinion, or people are saying things that oppose your views or your perspective, they're feeding you that stuff because they know it keeps you more engaged than oftentimes the memes or the funny or the playful things online. So a big part of the work that I do in my life is I'm shepherding the content, I'm shepherding my exposure to a lot of the narratives out there, because it's very easy to begin to believe in these narratives and these stories that, well, the world is going to end, there's going to be an apocalypse, there's going to be a civil war, so you might as well just give up now. Just play small, don't celebrate, don't talk too big, just play small. So that can be a really big antagonistic force. And I think that that is one that a lot of people are feeling right now. The online space is not a very joyful, playful place necessarily. People are just fighting about everything. They're disagreeing about everything. Another antagonistic force when it comes to money, excuse me. Another antagonistic force that when it comes to money, one of the big ones that I will say is the internal challenge of the emotional reds of fear, or of confusion, or of self-doubt. So a lot of people are afraid that they're not going to be able to pay their bills. They're not going to be able to provide for their family. They're not going to be able to do the things that they want to do. They're not going to be able to pay their staff. Let me know if any of these are relating with you, right? Fear is a really big one, that internal one. And even when we're looking at external forces of challenge, again, that is going to manifest itself as insecurity, as fear, as confusion, as self-doubt. And that's the really big one. Now, one of the things that I've come to realize in my own life, in my own experience, is that my focus plays a really big part in the direction that I'm taking myself. And most importantly, plays a huge part in my emotional well-being. Our emotions are essentially the result of these synaptic connections that happen through thoughts and perspectives and beliefs in our brain. And they fire off as chemical responses through our body. And when we are focused on an evil ex, or we're focused on a really bad client, or we're focused on a really shitty world situation, that will become what gets reflected back to us. It's the same as when we were in day one saying, if you're creating from those emotional reds, right, you're going to get that mirrored back to you. So not too long ago, I will say, well, this is what I talked about inside of Money Magic, actually. I encountered a situation in my life where I started to see my partner as the villain. I was really heavy in debt, and I kind of lost my flow. I was feeling really lost and confused. And I started to look for, who's responsible for this? What are the reasons or the sources that this is happening? And in that experience, what I came to realize is that the more that I was looking at these antagonistic forces and focusing myself upon them, the more they were exasperating. I should know these words. I should know big fancy words. I'm a writer. Anyways, it's the lemsip. I'm going to blame it on the lemsip. The more these things were kind of ballooning out of control, the more villains I was finding around me, the more problems I was finding around me, the more reasons I was telling myself why things weren't going to work out. And so when we have these antagonistic forces that show up, these challenges, one of the things that actually happens is that we tend to shift our focus towards them, not in a, oh, this is part of my hero's quest. I am being asked to problem solve here. I am being asked to shift into a new emotional state, whether that is courage, whether that is self-acceptance, whether that is clarity, whether that is confidence. Rather, we tend to focus on ourselves on them as if there's like a pimple on our face and this is the problem. We start scratching it, and next thing you know, it's like a fucking cyst, right? And it's out of control. We forget that these challenges, these antagonistic forces, are very much a part of the hero's quest, very much important. They are what create character development. They are what will get you to the stage where you can conquer and complete the quest that you're on. They are part of the story. There's this Indian Cherokee tale of this Cherokee chief who is teaching his son. And he says to his son, "Son, I have two wolves living inside of me. I have a dark wolf that is angry and destructive and revels off confusion and insecurity. And then there's this light wolf that is joy and playfulness and excitement and appreciation. And every day, these wolves battle inside of me, and they battle inside of you too, and they battle inside of every human being on this planet. And the young son asks his father, and he says, "Who wins? Which wolf wins?" And the Cherokee chief says, "Well, whichever wolf you feed. But here's the catch. If I only feed the light wolf, then the dark wolf becomes even angrier. They feel left out. They demand even more attention. They claw back. And so I need to feed the dark wolf as well. I need to accept it as well, because they both need each other. Both of these wolves need each other. And it is only when I am able to feed both of them that I live a life that is truly free. This is so, so true about this duality that we're in. This is what life is. It's a game of duality. There's contrasting forces, just like there's red emotions and green emotions. There's light, there's darkness, there's joy, there's apathy and sadness. We see these contrasting forces at play all the time. But what we tend to do is when these forces show up in our lives, we go, "Oh, I'm doing something wrong. This isn't supposed to happen like this. I'm not supposed to, if I'm aligned, I'm not supposed to meet challenges. I'm not supposed to meet difficulties. I'm not supposed to meet resistance." And then we go off on these witch hunts to try to figure out why. And we focus ourselves on this. We feed only the dark wolf through our focus. And we neglect the other side. Or we give up. We go, I was doing something that felt really playful, that was in a lot of flow. And you know what? I only got 10 people signing up, and I was expecting 100 people to sign up. And I feel so disappointed right now. And I know that this wasn't a line, because if it was a line, then it should have made a lot of money right away. And I give up. This wasn't the way. And we completely miss the boat. We forget that your story, it's a quest. You're on a quest to do something of epic fucking proportions. And there are emotional transmutations, there are offers, there are things that you need to put out to the world. There is something that you're going to create with that value exchange, that if you're not doing it right now, you're inviting yourself towards those things. And the way that you do that is through that contrasting experience. That's what develops character. Every protagonist in pretty much every single story is going to be asked to problem solve. And when you read a book, or you see a movie, or you see a TV series where the protagonist encounters this force, whether it's internal or external, and they just give up, they go, "Ah, I knew it. This is the end of me." How do you relate with that protagonist? It's very hard to relate to protagonists like that, because when protagonists behave that way, the immediate perception or the immediate sense is they just didn't want it. It's not important enough for them. They're giving up. They're walking away. They've crumbled to the villain. The villain is winning. Have you seen movies like that where the villain wins? It's very deflating, right? It's like, oh, I just spent 2 hours watching this and everybody died and the bad guy wins. Okay. It's hard to get behind that. You're going to meet that contrasting experience, even if you're creating in emotional greens, because those experiences are inviting you to problem solve and to develop more empathy, to get closer to the offers or the content or the messages or the energy and the thoughts and the perspectives that match the version of you, of the hero that has conquered the quest, that has achieved the outcome. And when we just give up right away, or we tell ourselves, oh, there's challenge, not supposed to be like this. Let me put it this way. A protagonist is dealing with depression, okay, or maybe anxiety. And there's this antagonistic force that shows up that maybe it's their client, or maybe they get an invoice. This has happened to me. I got 2 or 3 years ago, before I wrote Money Magic, I got this unexpected invoice out of nowhere. It was like 140K or something like that. It was because of a contractual thing that had happened. It hit me out of the blue. I had no idea. And at that time I was already in debt. And maybe you've had that before. Maybe it's been a tax bill or something like that. And so the protagonist is in these emotional states, and they're striving to conquer this quest, and then this unexpected tax bill or this unexpected thing hits them, and they go back into anxiety, or they think to themselves, you know what, I'm just going to kill myself. I'm just going to end this. How does that story follow? What proceeds after that? Does the protagonist conquer the quest? Is that what happens? No, we intuitively get this. What's going to happen is they're going to keep inviting those antagonistic forces over and over and over again until they are able to shift the way that they respond to the villains, whether it's internal villains or external. They're going to keep going on that quest. More little adventures, if you will, so that they can develop the emotional skills, harness the thoughts and the perspectives and the resilience, the confidence, the clarity to get them to the end. And it's the same thing in our lives. Maybe you're in a situation right now where you're feeling, I really want this money because I feel so crushed financially. I feel like I have all these bills and things that are coming at me, and this payment is late, and how am I going to pay my staff? Or I really need to do this and I don't have any money to do this. And you're succumbing to that antagonistic force. You're focused on it, believing that that is why you cannot go where you want to go, forgetting that that force is there to help you get there. It is the piece that develops the character, so that when you show up in the value exchange, it's not smoke and mirrors. It's not you saying, hey, I'm really happy. I'm going to help you in your life. I'm going to help you build this, or I'm going to help deliver this and all of this. It's solid. When you show up to a value exchange with that kind of energy, it doesn't matter what kind of fucking funnel you use, what strategy you use, whether or not you have followers or not, or what you're doing with your content or what you're saying. People are going to be magnetized to you. We're vibrational beings. We pick up on this. We know when someone is deeply in their truth, when they've owned that quest, when they are moving forward, the hero of their journey, we're like, fuck yeah, give me some of that. I don't even care how many bells or whistles come with this. Just let me in, let me in. I've experienced this so many times in my life, and I've experienced the contrast of that where I haven't been in that energy. And I've tried to launch things, but deep down, the protagonist is feeling beaten up and just like, oh, victim. I'm a victim of these forces. I'm a victim of capitalism. I'm a victim of this world. I don't belong here. And that doesn't work. Those have never been very successful launches or offers that I've delivered when I've been in that space. And so a big part of this is to shift our perspective on those contrasting forces, to begin to appreciate them for what they are. Those of you guys that listed out what those forces are for you, ask yourself, what is the lesson that that antagonistic force is bringing to the table for you? What are you being asked to learn through this? So you're in debt. How about instead of feeling, oh, fuck, now I got everything, and shifting the intention to, I gotta make money just so I can clear this debt. I gotta make money just so I can cover my rent or my mortgage or my monthly payments. It's very heavy, you know? We go, oh, well, this is a fun little problem. Okay. This is why that day one conversation is so important about extroverting our intentions. Because if you make it only about the money, that's what tends to happen. Is when you encounter these forces of challenge, of duality, these contrasting experiences, and your motivation is purely money, you're going to really struggle to hold that kind of perspective. Because again, your core doesn't really care about money. It did not come into this planet, into this body to make money, something that is a human construct. If you're not connected to something that has a deep why for you, a deep purpose, and I don't mean like purpose as in like your vocation or even having to understand, you know, I'm going to help X amount of people do X by this date. What I'm meaning is like bringing the emotional states of well-being, expanded states of well-being in yourself and to others is going to be very difficult for you to find a perspective of play, of acceptance with those antagonistic forces. But make no mistake, those forces are showing up in your life because they're helping you get and conquer that quest. They're helping you develop the character traits so that you can be the fucking hero of your own story. A lot of people could say, oh, there's so much fear in the world right now, and disagreement and argument, and this is why I cannot do this. This is why I should lower my prices, or this is why I should play small right now. Instead of saying, this is why I need to play big. The world needs this right now more than ever. People are sad. They're getting sick. We have more convenience than ever. I mean, people are taking hot showers 2-3 times a day. It's ridiculous. That didn't even exist 100 years ago. We have such an abundance of food that people are overweight. It's wild how abundant our current reality actually is. And yet what we're finding is people are getting sicker and sicker. We can look at those forces and go, this is why I can't. This is why I should play small. This is why I should give up. Or we can go, this is why I must. This is my cue. People need this. They need this value right now. And if it's only about the money, it's very hard. If it's only about paying off your debt, if it's only about making sure you make ends meet at the end of each month, that's going to be your experience every single month. You're going to get yourself into this state where you're always trying to make ends meet. You're always going to find yourself with this doom and gloom debt over your shoulders. And we shift our perspective and we go, I got debts. That's my antagonistic force right now. Because you know what? I realize that when this debt shows up, I lose my confidence. I feel small. I feel trapped. I feel, ooh. Well, maybe that debt is showing up to help me create this internal alchemy of, okay. Who's going to help more people? Who's going to have a more powerful value exchange in the world? The protagonist who has succumbed to their monthly bills and their debt and the heaviness and the weight of the world, or the one who sees it as like a problem that can be solved and approaches that as like, let's solve it. How do we solve that? Who has more value to bring to the table for others? We don't need to be rocket scientists to answer that question, right? Let me just read some of your comments here. Right now, my story is I'm in the thick of it. So this story is great to hear. Yeah. And, like the more contrasting experience that you're going through, the more your character is being developed. It's like you're taking a trampoline and going, right? Admittedly, I've been coming from a place of lack of money, time, motivation, etc. Yeah. This is a big part to unlocking that big money that comes from those emotional greens. It's understanding that you're still going to encounter resistance, my friend. It's still going to show up because the story needs that. The character needs that. The protagonist needs it. But the tendency is we see those experiences and we internalize them and we start to create all kinds of stories about what they mean for us and the world. And we focus ourselves on that. And then we wonder why. We're constantly looped into that. It's like, oh, fuck. It's never ending. This is why I'm such a big proponent of the vibration of play. It's one of my personal big missions. I'm not showing up on this workshop with you guys because I have an intention of X amount of money to make, or that I'm, like, oh, I want to be able to pay this off and do this with this workshop. I literally have zero expectations financially around this workshop. I'm showing up because, first of all, it feels good for me to have these conversations. I literally need to have these conversations with people. It feeds my soul. I shut off all my programs back in December 2023, January 2023, 24. because I thought, oh, I'm just going to automate my entire business. I'll have complete time freedom. I'll just sell the books and do the upsells. And what I found in that experience is I started to wither. I need to talk about these things with people. I need to share these ideas with people. I need to share this value. I need to help lift people into their emotional states of well-being. It feels good. It nurtures me. It's beyond the money. um, this is a test to help me understand that who I am is not conditional to my current financial, physical situation. Yeah. Sometimes the test is forgiveness. Sometimes the test is acceptance. Sometimes the test is confidence. Sometimes the test is appreciation. Sometimes the test is courage. And again, that's why I love play. It's a huge mission of mine to just bring this vibration of play to more people. Instead of like, oh, this fucking life is heavy and entrepreneurship is so heavy and all these strategies and all these, oh my fucking God. I live in the country and it's spring in New Zealand now. Well, almost. And the sheep have all given birth to lambs and they are so fucking cute. You can see them running around in the yard and they're chasing each other and jumping up. Meanwhile, the adult sheep are just grazing and they're like, oh. And I'm like, man, this is such an analogy for life. Like, we're literally born into states of play. Young children, young mammals are so playful. And then life gets so heavy and like bills and responsibilities. And we forget, we fucking completely lose the mark on that. Some of the most endearing protagonists that I've ever encountered. I'm watching this. I really like the director Taika Waititi because I butchered his name, but he's a Kiwi, and he's I just love him. And Jermaine, who is the writer director of the series called The Time Bandits. And so me and my partner are watching this series right now, which is produced by these two incredibly comedic guys. And I am so endeared with the protagonists because they have so many flaws. They're not perfect, but they're constantly looking at problems from a state of play. It's not like, oh, this is like heavy. Yeah, I can, they're like, this problem shows up and the way they react to it is hilarious. They're just like unbothered. They're like, okay, this is happening. They're not creating all these fucking stories and dialogues, and they're able to achieve and conquer the villain and complete the quest that they're on. Is brilliant. It's got Phoebe from Friends in it, which she's hilarious as well, right? And play is such a beautiful vibration because it is a combination of courage. It is a combination of joy. It is a combination of spontaneity and inquisitiveness, getting really curious about things. And it also has a lot of chaos in it. You look at these young lambs playing in the backyard and it's chaotic. They're like toppling over and one's jumping on top of it and knocking the other one down. And it's chaos with integrity. But it's such a powerful vibration. And I think as adults, we just get weathered down by our bills and our responsibilities and life and our past experiences and what people have said to us. And we completely lose our connection to this. So much of the antagonistic forces that we encounter when it comes to money is around fear. We're afraid that things are not going to work out, that we're going to fail. We're afraid that we're going to launch something and no one's going to buy. We're going to post something and no one's going to like it. No one's going to comment. We're afraid that we're going to get complaints or that these things are going to happen or that we'll never amount to somebody or that our bills are not going to get covered or that we're not going to be able to do the things that we want to do. There's so much fear. We're afraid the economy is like, ugh. These antagonistic forces, by the way, have always existed. Romans were complaining about the economy. Romans were saying this is the end of civilization. Give it 500 years, humans are going to be in an apocalypse. We've been fucking saying this for thousands of years. So we can choose to buy into that. And we can choose to create, to stay in that space. But what we'll find is that if we keep desiring and we keep sending these intentions, bring me the money, bring me a big value exchange, bring me the ideas and the clarity to bring so much value to people, bring me my why, bring me the inspiration. We're going to keep inviting those antagonistic forces so that they help us to create that inner transmutation, to step into the courage. This is a big one when it comes to money, courage. The courage to keep moving forward even when you fucking faceplant. The courage to keep moving forward even when somebody says you're stupid and I hate what you're doing. That was one of the big things with me when I started to run a lot. I was running about 100K of ad spend in my last company for my company. So this wasn't on client, this was for our company. And it was a big amount of money. And I started to grow a pretty big audience as a consequence of that. Ads are great for growing an audience, by the way. And just trolls coming left and right, like, you're stupid, you're a money grabber, la la la, you're just a scam. I even had people on Reddit like saying shit about me, and that really fucking knocked me for a minute. It really fucking knocked me. But the thing is, like, those forces, the haters, the trolls, the people, the naysayers, the people saying you're never going to amount to anything, I was forgetting that in that experiences, I was being gifted with the opportunity to stand my ground and go, yeah, I'm going to keep moving forward. Self-acceptance, confidence, courage. We're afraid of losing these material things around us, this house, the car, the accolades. Well, let me tell you something. If you keep playing with that fear, what I've experienced myself and what I have seen play out for people is you're eventually going to bring yourself to a stage where you're going to have to let everything go so that you can let go of the fear, so that you can realize even when you lose everything, you're okay. Now, there's a gift in that experience as well, but the beautiful thing is, as the narrator of your story, as the author of your quest, you always have the opportunity to shift your thoughts, your perspectives on those forces that you're encountering. We don't need to go into those spaces of complete loss and surrender. We do need to surrender. And we'll talk about that tomorrow, because another big antagonistic force is the confusion. Like, how am I going to do this? I'm here and I want to get here and I want to help a lot of people and I want to, make this money and, like, how do I do this? What is the strategy? What do I say? What do I post? What do I email people? What is my package? What is my pricing? How? I love Stephen King stuff, and I was reading one of his autobiographies. I don't have it here. And in one part of his book, I think this book guy has written like 67 books or something. It's fucking wild. He's producing them like every year. He's a machine, this guy. And he wrote in his autobiography, like, I never know where the plot is taking me. And if you're sitting there as a writer, waiting for the plot to be clear in your mind, this is what's going to happen to my characters, you're going to be waiting a fucking long time. It's not how it works. Your job is to simply open yourself up to the journey and to start, to take action, to move, to start writing. And then the ideas come, the how becomes clear. Each step in front of you is revealed. And I love that because I was like, oh my God, this is literally like entrepreneurship. If I had waited on the sidelines at the beginning going, I really want to create a business that models flow and play and ease and makes a lot of money, brings a lot of value to people, but I'm not going to use Facebook ads this time. And I've never done it this way. And I don't know many people doing it this way. How do I do this? Instead of just taking a step, one step at a time, there's no way I would have created the flow protocols the way it was. The how is never made clear to us from where we are right now. And that's okay. Life is meant to be fun and adventurous and full of innocent wonder. Yes. I was watching cormorants swimming in the harbor and catching fish with grace and ease, playing and living in abundance without even trying. Yes, nature never worries about the how. To strengthen your Ryan Holiday. I don't know what that is. So what I want us to do today is to shift the way that we're looking, our perspective, our energy at problems. Problems. I have so many problems. I mean, you can revel in that if you want, if that's the journey you're on. I'm not going to judge. There's no one journey that's better than the other or a story. But what I will say is that if a protagonist does that on a screen constantly, you're going to tune out. You're going to be like, this motherfucker, like, right? We're on a quest to create a really big, powerful value exchange. That's what Seven Figures is. Unless you're going to inherit money or win it from the lottery, you're in business, which means you're in the business of creating a value exchange for people. And the value always boils down to an emotional state of well-being. That's what people want. And if you're watching a protagonist like that on a screen or in a book, do you feel better? Is there a lot of value in that for you? Or is there more value in a protagonist going like, yeah, this shit happened to me. And guess what? That happened. And I had this little thing come up. And I was like, no. And then you're like, wait, that's what's happening to me. And if they can do that, holy shit, I can do that. I'm so fucking inspired. There's so much value. Even if you're not a coach, like this applies regardless of your industry, by the way. So I'm not just talking to you if you're trying to coach people or be a mentor to people. Regardless of the industry that you're in, you're creating a value exchange. And the higher your price point is, guess what? The more it's going to depend on that emotional piece, right? The brands that charge a lot of money for handbags or the Ferraris and those kinds of cars, they're playing off emotions. Their marketing is all based off emotions. The perfumes, right? You're going to feel happy. You're going to love yourself. You're going to attract. You're going to be so confident. So it's applicable regardless of your industry. There's a part of this equation where You are showing up to the value exchange. And in order for that to be a really powerful value exchange, you have to value your own sense of well-being. You have to value the courage. You have to value the confidence. You have to value the security. You have to value the peace of mind. You have to value the play. You have to value the gratitude, whatever it is that you're bringing to the table, whatever it is that you're being asked to transmute. And we don't need to understand necessarily the how. How am I going to bring this value exchange? How am I going to tell people about this? We need to shift our perspective around those obstacles that we're facing. You are the hero of your story. And every story needs the hero to problem solve. So we can choose to see those problems as all the reasons why you're not good enough and why things are not going to, or we can go, fuck, this is going to be a really good story. Shit. Okay. Let's solve. Let's go, motherfuckers. Which protagonist are you going to get behind? Which protagonist do you think is going to have a massive amount of value to bring to the table? Which protagonist are you going to get attracted to, right? So, John Wick, the character. I love that you guys are thinking of characters, and like, I want you guys to start seeing that when you're watching or consuming stories going forward. Like, isn't it the you know, if you're even like in sporting teams, right? It's like the underdog, the guy who like came up from nothing and he had all the fucking excuses in his childhood why he would never be somebody. And he's the one everyone gets behind. Because he was like, nah, I'm going to do this. And it wasn't because everyone said, you're going to do this. Often that protagonist is being told their whole life, you're never going to do it. It's because he made the decision to problem solve. And in that, developed his character into somebody who could actually receive and actually create that value and bring it to the table. Stephen King, he's written like 67 books. It's very strange. I've started to get into horror. I never used to be able to watch horror until I started to like get into which is funny that I'm saying that because I'm like, I really protect the content, but it used to really freak me out. And now that I've been kind of viewing it through like the storytelling eye, the writer's eye, I love it because there's a lot of, just like comedy, I find comedy to be such a high form of intelligence, right? People that are able to make others laugh and put people in vibration, I think are some of the smartest people in the world. It's just beautiful intelligence. And I also have grown an affinity for sort of horror genres because I find that I never used to understand why people would like that. And now I understand that we tend to, the true crime drama and those kinds of shows, it's a way for us to process traumas and for us to make sense of this duality in this world of things, forces beyond ourselves. So anyways, that's a bit of a side convo. So tomorrow we're going to go deeper into this value exchange. So yesterday I talked about how money doesn't really care if you're happy or not. That's not the factor. You can make money in any emotional state. However, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you. As we said, like if you're in anxiety or if you're in confusion, that prevents you a lot of times from even taking action. So you're making the road ahead a lot harder. It can still be done. There's still a lot of anxious people that make a lot of money, but it's going to get reflected back to you. And that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody, the children in your life who are looking up to you and going, they're modeling their own relationship with money, right? Off of you, whether that's nieces or your own kids, the people around you, the friends, the family around you. So the intention should be to create from a space of green, to extrovert our perspectives, make it bigger than the money, make it about the play, make it about the flow, make it about the joy. Instead of showing up in your business and going, how can I make this amount of money today? Going, how can my business and I have fun today? How can my business put me into a state of flow today? And just because we're doing that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. We're still going to encounter those friction points because we need those to develop the character to the stage where they can bring a lot of value. They can change the world. They can complete the quest. And to shift that internal energy into courage, it's fucking hard. It's not easy to leave a relationship that you feel trapped in. It's not easy to let go of a client that you're just like, oh, when you have bills to pay, when you have people to pay, when you have responsibilities like that. Make no mistake. But in my honest opinion, I think it's much harder to stay in emotional reds, to stay stuck and to stay trapped and to stay overwhelmed and to stay burned out. I've been across the entire spectrum with it. I've made money burnt out, insecure. I've made money in flow and play. And while those things took a lot of courage, it's way fucking harder to stay depressed. It's way harder. There's no doubt about that. So we get to choose our own adventure. You're the protagonist, you're the story. Now, this value exchange requires us to value the exchange. That is one key thing that money does care about. It's important that when you're showing up to the value exchange, you're standing behind the value. And if the only thing behind that is I want to pay off my debt, or if the only motivation or intention behind that is I just don't want to go broke, I don't want the bank to take my house, oh my God, what kind of value exchange is that? And tomorrow we're going to look at the other piece of this and the resuscitation, the resurrection, if you will, of the protagonist. So every story has the beginning, the middle, and the end, conquering that quest. And what I want you guys to do, I'm going to post a prompt. I'm going to let you guys go because I know I'm running a bit over time. But what I want you guys to do is I want you to, in the group, I want you to identify those antagonistic forces, whether they're external or internal. And then I want you to identify what lessons you are being asked, what lessons you are being taught through those forces, because that's what they are. The white wolf needs the dark wolf needs the white wolf. Both forces are necessary. It's not about let's only go in the light. And then every time the dark wolf shows up, we give up, or we know we failed, or we just, we accept both. And when we do that, when we feed both through our acceptance, the dual forces no longer keep showing up in the way that they do in the looping patterns. We move on to the next level. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be set for life and you'll never have a problem again in your life. It's just a different level, a different quest. Once you reach the 7 millions, you're still going to have problems. You're going to maybe, but your problems are going to change. They're going to be like investment or taxes or people coming after you. Once you start making a lot of money, right? That can happen. Family wants money. They want handouts. It's not that the problems, those friction forces never go away. Once you reach that money, it just changes. The protagonist is being asked to, again, character develop to keep playing that game. And how we perceive those forces is everything. So I want you to practice that today, to recognize those forces and then recognize them as a way for the protagonist, you, i.e. the hero of your story, that is being developed, being invited to transmute into new perspectives, new thoughts, new energy, new emotional states of well-being, and play around with that. If you've got something really heavy going on in your life right now, see if you can shift the energy around that. And you're going to notice almost immediately a lightness in your being, like, okay, we can do this. And you're going to probably notice, if you keep doing that, you're going to get the solutions, the ideas, the inspiration, the next step. The next step becomes clearer and clearer. So thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I was doing this I know this is a Saturday here, Friday for many of you guys. Tomorrow is going to be Saturday. Hopefully you guys can still join me. I love having you guys live. And we're going to wrap everything up tomorrow. We're going to go much, much deeper in this, but hopefully a lot of this makes sense and you're resonating and you're changing the way that you're seeing things. Like the heaviness of the world that you're seeing, the things that are happening, that's not why you can't do it. That's why you need to fucking do it. The bills, the things, it's not why you're stuck. It's why you're becoming free. Yeah. All right. I love you all so much. And I will see you guys tomorrow at the same time. See you guys. Bye.